morning. Good morning, or good afternoon. Give a few more minutes until this song's over and we'll get started on the watch list. And a few things I want to kind of shortly discuss. After this, I'm going to go hang out at the pool. Get my weekly sun bath. Snake on the beach. Have you a pencil and paper ready? Alright, welcome to the Sneaky Snake watch list. I hope everybody's having a good weekend. We're going to go over a few tickers and kind of the strategy, how we're going to play them in a way. I'm going to first start off with going to start me an options challenge here for the Sneaky Snake trade. Started off with $1,000. Then I'm going to double up and open up two different accounts, kind of like I did with the last one. Started it with 1,000, got it to $2,000, and then divided them up. And then I had a margin account and also had a cash account set up. So that's kind of the way we're going to do it again. It worked out pretty good last time. I had a goal in mind by the end of the challenge is to average $1,500 a day, and that was met. And then I started being live on YouTube, and so I'm picked up this new kind of trading strategy that I want to practice with it, and I'm going to use that challenge as a practice sheet. So yeah, it's going to be starting maybe this week or in a couple of days. I'm kind of taking out the funds and getting that account ready. So it'll be an options challenge, and the object of it is to do little bitty day trade scalps to build it up a little bit to where I'm able to have less risk, and then take bigger risk as I get longer in the account. When I get it up to about 2,000 or 3,000, then I'll start taking more risk and adding on and making the profit bigger. And that's one of my goals now, is to think big. I want to start thinking big next year. When I'm doing my trading, I'm talking maybe 5,000-10,000 a day. So right now we're just going to do the challenge, and I'm going to get it started off. And the next thing I want to kind of talk about is an old habit that I learned a long time ago. I used to own a picture frame gallery, and it was very important that every time you measured something out, that you measured it twice. Think quality, measure twice, cut once. So in other words, when you're taking a trade, always check and make sure your entries and everything you've got is keyed in exactly the way you want it, because there's been times where I've been sloppy and added on when I should have probably took off or took profit, or I've done it many times where I wanted to sell something, I end up buying it at the resistance and then hurry up and trying to get out of it or it dipped on me or something like that. So think quality. That's going to be this week's lesson, is to think quality, better quality trades, better entries, and that's how I'm going to start the challenge. So think twice, measure twice, cut once. In other words, think twice, cut once. And then the next one was last week's lesson, and that's kind of how your brain works. Don't get caught up in the same old stock. Don't fall in love with the same old stock. Don't have a biased opinion about the same old stock. I learned, PLTR kind of changed my attitude last week. So there's, don't get complacent. Is a good word to say. Don't get complacent with your trading style, or because it doesn't always work. And the same trading style won't always work. I was discussing it kind of with someone today about, the market's ready for this and the market's ready for that. It kind of dictates you in seasons. There's 4 seasons in a year. Some seasons it's summer all year long. Some seasons it's winter all year long. Our seasons are pretty icy, and sometimes they're pretty hot and humid. So, don't get complacent. Try to find, if I'm built to where I can do all kinds of strategies. I can play the market any day, any time, anyhow. So don't get complacent in that same old strategy. And don't get complacent with the same old stock. Because what comes up does come down, and what goes down does come back up. So that's complacent was last week's lesson. Try not to be complacent. Here in another year or so, I plan on taking some vacations. I kind of want to build myself to where I'm going to be a traveler day trader for at least a couple of years in the Caribbean, in Mexico, Hawaii, anywhere that allows me good internet service to where I can still day trade and then step out onto maybe my back porch into a pool, have my food already cooked for me, and just kind of take the easy life from here on out. So that's next year's goal, is after I get done with this challenge, is maybe start becoming a traveler day trader and try to take the gig with me as I go. This here's a resort that I spent down in Mexico last year or a couple years ago, and I just kind of started booking things out. I've got my COVID shots, so I'll get me a booster, and then I'll be ready to travel next year and be a traveling day trader for at least 2 to 5 years. I've been cooped behind this desk a little bit too long. So that's why I got to start thinking big, and these resorts and these going to run me about $2 or $3 grand maybe a month or more, up to 5. So I got to at least make that much profit to keep this living style going. Extra, that is. And this is a chart pattern that I want you to remember and think about when you're day trading or when you're in a trade. It's called, different. These two are like different Darvas boxes. They're side by side, top on top. Or it could be a daily 5-minute, 1 minute candle pattern. But once you have that initial breakout and they start to build up some resistance, many times they'll pull back to support. So I always say an old support will become an old resistance will become a new support at one time. So let's say you're in a long trade and you're swinging something for 20 days, 30 days, 3 months, and it's in these patterns. As long as it holds that support from that previous resistance, you're still in the trade. It doesn't matter what time frame you're in. If you're a day trader or a scalper, the same thing works. It'll prolong your trade. It'll keep you in a trade. And a lot of times there's different patterns on these trades, like a triple bottom, uno, dos, tres. she'll bounce up and break the triple top. Or double top, pulls back to the triple bottom, and then there you have the breakout. So, I'm pointing these out quite a bit, these patterns. So to always keep in mind that an old support, that comes resistance, and after it breaks it, that resistance can become a support. And you'll see that in many patterns, many time frames. It's just one way to keep in the trade, or one way to get into a trade. Let's say you were at support down here and you broke out, and all of a sudden, damn, I don't want to chase it. So set you an alert down to that old resistance. See if that doesn't come back and pull back and be a support for you to get back in the trade. NVIDIA, I can name a bunch of good stocks that did this last week, that ran, and you were able to get in the trade if you missed it. So it's always something to think about. And that's a real good pattern to learn. So we're going to go ahead and get into the watch list. Just remember all these. Remember that options challenge. And this is the Sneaky Snake watch list. And we have a scan, and we also have a on-hand watch list that I go by. We'll take that down. So we're going to kind of just go through the scan on how I use the scan. There's three different ways that I use this scan, that I look at it when I want to look at it. So the first one is the high volume. I always like to look on the scan to see what is the highest volume. Now these are set up for the Sneaky Snake trade. They have a little bit of volatility, plus they have a lot of volume, and they have a lot of popularity. So that's what you're looking for when you're setting up your watch list. Now write this down. And I've talked about it before, and I'm going to talk about it again. Remember stocks that are really running. Remember stocks that have a lot of social activity. Remember stocks that are being talked about a lot. Maybe you watch CNBC, and they're always talking about the same old stocks over and over and over again. If you're a long-time listener, you'll see that happening. They talk about them over, and they talk about them over and over again. They talk about them when they're sad. They talk about them when they're happy. Like Tesla last week. Here's a prime example of how the media works. We were sitting up here real nice in a Darvas box, kept finding resistance up here. We just kept finding it. I'm going to erase this. I might have to go use the restroom here in a second. But this is a prime example of how media can shake up a stock. So last week, Nile had an accident with a very lucrative businessman, and he died. So it brought Nile down, and along with that sector, excuse me for a second. And then that Monday, the government comes out and said they're going to do some kind of investigation over Tesla because of the 11 accidents that it's had. If they were so if they were so anal, they should be doing it on every car made in America, because but this is a new technology, so they're going to put their 2 cents in it. So it brought the stock down. And you heard me last couple weeks before saying I was bullish as heck. I've been bullish as heck on this stock. I mean, extremely bullish on Tesla, because we broke out of a bear flag and turned it into a bull flag. Well, now, here we sit again, bouncing off that 200. But what it did, that news, it brought it down pretty bad. Knowing that I'm still bullish on this stock, which, I'm always been bullish on the stock, we found perfect opportunity to get in this trade at 650. And I called it out in the room. I said 650. I said I'd love to see 630, but 650 is the spot. And we landed right on that 650. And then she went ahead and bounced on up the next day. Kind of forgot about that news by the end of the week. And that's what I want to, another lesson that's very important to know. And it's about getting complacent. Some people can get complacent in a very short period. You know, I call it a short attention span. They see a stock that runs and then they forget about it. I've made a lot of money from things pulling back after a great breakout. You know, I call it the secondary bounce. So don't get complacent and have that short attention span on a good stock that's ran up real good. Because I guarantee it, if you look at that 20-day chart or even that yearly chart, you might find you a good setup where they pull back and they bounce back up. You know, this is a great example of what patience can do in a 20-day period for Tesla. If you had just the patience to wait for it, you had the sneaky snake set up right here, and you also had it right here. And she had that nice little bounce. Almost made it to the 200. So that's part about getting complacent. Now let's go ahead and go through the list. We'll start off with number 1, and that's definitely NVDA. Everybody's been talking about it. It's number 1 on volume. I mean, the volume on this thing was incredible. It ran all the way up to 574 million shares were traded that day. The options were just going crazy. We were calling it out. It had the great momentum run that it needed. You know, the sneaky snake was also in play in this trade here, but once that momentum kicked in, it was all about the 1 minute and watching it right up and trying to hit your targets. So we had a pretty good high out of this one. We closed at 208.16, and I think this is how I'm going to call the trade come Monday. And we'll show you right here. I think it's going to pull back just a little bit, maybe to the 9. I'm going to use that 9 on the 1 hour, the 9 EMA for a support level, and I like to see it pull back to that. If not, we'll get down here in the buy zone, and that's going to be no lower than 204. I think 204 is a great spot for this trade to pull back to if it does. And it does have the bottom of this one candle right here on the hour right at 205.42, 205.50. So anywhere in this buy zone between 204 and 206, I think it'd be a good spot to load up on this trade. Now I got my first support set here at 207.11, and I've got the resistance to break at 208.63. If this 208.63 breaks, which I think it's going to, we'll end up going to 210, and this is going to be another 220 trade. Everybody's got this at a higher level, way past that mark, right around 240, 250. The analysts do. So I think this is a good trade to be watching. You can also watch this trend. There's a little trend right here, and that could also be your support on NVIDIA. Now I'm 100% bullish on this stock, and I think it should be the first ones you look at come Monday morning. If you want to get it, if you're not in the trade, and if you are in the trade. But this thing can pull, like I said, right back to this 205 area. That's where that trend is. And I drew that bottom line right here to right here to right here. And it stops right there at 205. So this is going to be my step 3 program. I'm going to try to get in here at the buy zone, take it to the consolidated area, which will break the 208.63, and get up here and try to sell it at resistance. I'll rinse and repeat at this stage. I think it'll have enough volatility to be able to do that after Monday's run. It's going to kind of slow down like AMD did. If you remember AMD and mRNA and all them that had them great breakouts, they end up getting tired, and then the people end up forgetting about them, but I always keep them on my list because I know there's secondary, thirdary, and maybe 4 times I can rinse and repeat that before it starts to go back up and break that resistance. So remember that lag after a good breakout, because that's great opportunity. Great opportunity. So the next one on that list, let me see, I got the scan going. We're looking at the scan. Excuse me. Gotta get that. Everybody hear me? Oh, fine. Hello, Paul, Chase, Johnny, Steve. The next one we're going to talk about is going to be AMD. Now, AMD's had a nice little pullback. We all know how it's had that great run. We actually dropped down to that lower support level. I had a 509 support, and now we're starting to build us a nice little flag here. It could be a wedge, it could be an inverse ascending triangle at the same time. So that lower support, we're going to draw in that lower support right here, right about 102. Whoops. This is going to be AMD. So this is another one that's got a lot of volume on it. Okay. I'm going to switch this around. We'll just leave that like that for now. This has kind of a little upward wedge to it. It could be triple bottom. It could pull back to this support right here where the 21 is. Now this is the hour time frame. So we're looking for another breakout on this stock. Once it passes this 606 area, we're going to get it back up to the 200, and then that 200 on the hour is going to be your resistance level to break. If we can get past it, we'll go up to 110. But I think we still need to kind of stay in this box, but pay attention because NVIDIA, AMD, Cisco, all these chip makers have been on a good tear here lately. And I think they kind of Oracle, I think they're kind of switching back and forth, and they're all running together at the same time. So it might be AMD's turn to go ahead and do that run to duty call for itself. We've been kind of in a box here for a couple weeks. Once we had that great run to 122, she's building up momentum. You know, I hate to see it. I really don't want to see it go below 100, but I do have a lower support right around 101. Excuse me. 101 with a hard resistance right up here, right around the 110.72 area. Right there. Dadgummit, I didn't put the... We're going to fix this for sure now. There you go. So that's going to be your hard resistance. I think we're still going to stay in this channel. It just came down because last week was pretty tough. It was a pretty tough week. And you know how the earnings were on AMD. They were outstanding, right? So it's just consolidating. It had that good dream run. Now it's pulled back to about 50%. Had a little bit of pullback to 61.8% on the Fibonacci. Now this chart is down below in the content section. If you want to go ahead and check this chart out, you have a toss. You're welcome to it. So it's a script down the content. So no lower than this 102. Let's try to keep it there, and then try to keep it in between this 110 area, and just play it back and forth. You know, you can play inside these Darvas boxes. There was plenty of times to take this trade between 105 and 110, and then that's the same thing that's going to happen here. To get hot, it needs to break that 105.94. VAC also had a pretty good pullback last week. We had some pretty harsh corrections in China last week, and I think that caused a lot of other stocks to go down too in the correction mode. And then I think it was a good correction week. I called for a red week all week, and that's what we got. And I was very pleased with that. Then Friday was a green day. So, you know, I think we're in for a good week this week. The only thing that bothers me is what's going on in the Middle East right now, in Afghanistan, and how lame Biden's been about it. But that's my major concern. Then we've got China, and we've got inflation worries. But we've had all that. We've always had all that. It's just got to a more intense level right now, especially with the regulations in China. So that being in the now, that's part of the sneaky snake strategy. So on BAC, I think if we hold this support level right here, right around 40, just a little above 40, 39.79, we'll be fine in this trade. Now, didn't I not save this? Spank. About 39.79 needs to hold. The pivot point is going to be right here at 40.46. You can see it as clear as day. And the resistance, that's going to be the resistance to break, to bring it up here to a nice low level right around 41.45. So the sneaky snake on this one here, you know, you're not going to get much out of it. I'd kind of let it play out a little bit. That's how I would look at that. Now I'm looking at the 20-day on these. Pfizer, along with Myrna and Pfizer, what's that other one? Johnson & Johnson, all ran last week, and they've had a pretty good run for 20 days. I think they're in the correction mode now, where they're going to start building and going sideways, and we're not going to have a huge breakout on these. I think the price is built in, and that's my opinion on that. We're going to clear this up. So we're going to kind of create a sideways channel on these, and it's going to be a great sneaky snake opportunity for next week. Now, for the ones that are new to the room, there's a little intro that's on top of the top of the YouTube page there that you can watch. It kind of talks about it, and we're going to talk about it too. That's when the 9, and we'll get to a better layout, but this is a bullish pattern when it's doing this stuff above the 200. It likes to break out. You have the 9 EMA with the 21, the 50, and the 200 SMA. So they can keep playing in this channel on the way up. Now, the many ways that I draw this channel in is I'll take maybe 2 trend lines, and I'll go from this body of this candle up to the body of this candle, and I'll extend it out to the right. I don't want to draw it all the way up, but I want to use this trend bar as a reference for a resistance. Same thing that happens down here. I'm going to take this. In fact, I'm going to magnify it up just a little bit so I can see it better. I'm going to take it from right here to right here, and I'm going to extend that out to the right. Now this shows you how bullish and how bearish you are in the trade. As you can see, we run all the way up here. Every time we hit that top, correct? Same thing as support. Every time it pulled back, it hit that support line or come pretty damn close to it. So keep that in mind. And when I'm looking at these charts on a 20-day, I'm trying to find a pivot point area. And I can see the pivot point area pretty much, and it's going to be right in here, somewhere right in here. This is an old resistance, found support, found support. So that it says confirmation. That's a confirmation for me, and I'm not looking at this trend line, okay? I'm just looking at what I think the pivot point is on this chart. There's a couple of them. Right about there. Maybe I should have went a little higher on that. I got sloppy there. Measure twice, cut once. Measure twice, cut once. Right there. Magnify it up so I can get a better look at it. But this is what I was talking about earlier with this. You have that little breakout, it breaks out, and then they pull back. You have that little breakout, and it breaks out, and then it pulls back. So if you're wanting to look for a good support, and you don't want to chase a stock, draw that previous high. Same thing right here. The same example. I want you to check this out. Same example right here. Bam. Same example almost right in here. But you can see, had the breakout, she pulled right back to that. Old resistance becomes a new support. Old resistance becomes a new support to get back into the trade. The exit is when the 9 crosses the 21. The exit is when the 9 crosses down below the 21. The exit idea would have came in maybe from higher lows. Noticing the higher lows on the bodies of the candles. The wicks can fool you. So you got to use the body. Use the body of the candle in a 1 hour time frame. And when you see a lower high, for example like that, that's telling you something. That's telling you something. See what I told you? Higher high here, but I mean, still yet. It's just good to remember them higher lows and higher lows, and it can get you in a trade, and it can keep you out. It can keep you in a trade if you follow the trend lines, or if you follow the exit lines. I mean, okay, it hit here, it hit here. What's going to happen when it hits here again? Or what's going to happen when it hits here again when you get in on the sneaky snake, when the 9's under the 21, when the 9's under the 21? This is a good 5-day swing. I talk about my 5-day rule all the time. This whole chart spits it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the trade. So on a 20-day period, Pfizer, you could have got in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Or you could have held to keep you in the trade, if that's the kind of trader you are. But I'm a rinse and repeat kind of guy. I like to 5 times my profit instead of just 1 time it. If that makes any sense to you. These options, they go up and down pretty bad when you're in cup and handles like this. Cup and handle, cup and handle, cup and handle, cup and handle. Next one, FCX. So that's Pfizer. Keep a good eye on it. Here's the setup. You want to always check the news. This had real high volume. It ran up here after hours. It looks to me like a pretty darn good sneaky snake trade, but I want to check out the news. This here is PFC. S&P rises on tech gains offset clinical declines. China grid spending plunge. Outstanding Fremont blah blah. I always like to check to see if he's a China place too. I don't see anything in here that's really... What was that talk? FCX. I want to go to FinViz to check one thing. Actually 2. I want to check the float. It's got a huge float. So that's nothing to... It's huge float. I want to check the website. I'm going to go to investors here real fast. Yep, looks to me like this is something that... International Mining Headquarters in Phoenix, so it must be a Bitcoin or something. Minerals in Indonesia, no copper, largest copper and gold deposits, so that's a mining company. Boys, so that's what that is. I give that a 6, but it might be a good trade because we're setting up here. So resistance that we got to break on this one here is going to be right here, right around 33.82. And I'll probably just put it to the side because it's not really one of my highly momentum trades. The resistance we got to break is going to be that 50. So the support, we'll be watching it if it pulls back to right around 32. That's going to be FCX. Cisco is another good one that had a pop along with NVIDIA, and I think it had its price targets raised, and the better than expected 4th quarter EPS is what they're saying here. So they got a target like 50, 58, 57, 59, around that area. And we're right there right now. So this stock here might just kind of pull back a little bit, knowing that information, and I would be able to take this trade. You know, Sneaky Snake was right here. We got to wait for this 9 to start curling down over the 21 and wait for these moving averages to maybe pull back to this 50 or to this 200. If they pull back to that, and that support level is going to be right in here, right around 56, 50 area. So that's where we're going to set the alert for this trade. I'm not going to chase it. I'm going to let it come to me, because we're at resistance levels just doing by the analyst, and that's what I'm going to go by right now. I might raise it up just a little bit to right about there. That's at 56.79. Hello, Jason. Hello, Michael. A-Rod, NVIDIA is awesome. You are correct. You really expect to see LVS down to 33? We're going to take a look at that one too. That's my long-term trade, and I'm not in very heavy, but probably wasn't the best one to choose. But for my experiment trade. Now let's look at so we got support level here on Cisco at 56.79, and we're going to put another one right here at 57.39. So that's going to be, let's go ahead and move this alert up here. That's going to be our first idea right there. If this thing pulls back to support, might take it there. If it really is strong buy, if we go with our resistance level, it's going to be at 56.50. Here's another good one that I'm going to be watching, I think set up for a turnaround, and that's CLF. We got kind of a setup here for the Sneaky Snake. If this 9 starts to cross up, I think we can run this back up to at least 24.63. And if we can break that resistance at 200 on the hour, I think we can get up here to at least 25 and maybe definitely start to mow up here right around the 25.50 area. But we had a nice little sell-off on it. We consolidate to the right. A 9 moves above. We'll be in this trade. And I'm going to be right back. I got to use the restroom real fast or I can't talk. I've been drinking so much stuff. So I'll be right back. Take a small little break. So in other words, CLF, for the strategy to work, you have to get in like patterns, okay? We had 3 white soldiers right here. Let's go ahead and put this on the bigger playing field here. Let's use a different one. CLF. It's kind of how it works, these patterns. We look for a trend. This is a bull flag. Once it breaks out of that trend, out of that trend, it starts to form a pattern. It starts to go sideways. And that's when your squeeze starts to begin. You have the 9 and the 21, the 50 and the 200. So as we start to form this, what we're waiting for now is for this 9 to cross over the 21. Now this is on the hour time frame. Okay, this is for like a swing trade, if you're wanting to swing it. But I think this here will bounce up real fast if it does. It won't be much of a swing. But this is how the setup works, even on a 1 minute time frame. If you're looking at a 1 minute time frame, just like you do right in here, you wait for that trend. So that trend comes in. This is a 1 minute time frame. I showed you on an hour time frame if you kind of wanted to swing the trade. If you want to look at it as a day trade, you want to take that same kind of trend. You want to run this on down and extend this out. So once that trend starts to break, this here is a very bullish pattern. Instead of going sideways, it just started moving on up with higher lows. Well, there's your entry right here. As you can see the bigger candles coming in and the greener and the higher lows instead of the lower lows. So you broke out of that trend. You got the 9 getting ready to cross the 21. This is the 9 EMA or the 8 or whatever one you prefer. I like the 9 because I'm using a simple method. I want it to be simple. So I took the 21 SMA. So there's our entry. Right here. The confirmation is right here. Once the 9 EMA and the 21 SMA cross the 50, that's your second confirmation that the trade is still good. Even if it pulled back a little bit, don't worry too much because it pulled right back to support. You can see the candlesticks. This is why I like using the 1 minute, because I can see things that you could not see in a 5 minute, a 3 minute, or a 10 minute, or a 15, or an hour. So I'm constantly watching this 1 minute when I'm doing this sneaky snake scalp. So you got two confirmations, you got three. You got the trend, you got the higher lows, just the opposite of the down tick. You got the crossing over of the 9 to the 21, them two crossing the 50, and then you just off to the races from here. Here's your third confirmation. Right here, when all three of them pass, creates a golden cross. And then when the 50 crosses the 200, that's a golden cross. So you're following the 9 all the way up. Now here you go. For a day trade, you got your lower high. So that's an exit strategy. So you've run it up all the way up to here. Now you got to start thinking, okay, I've got the extension. I've had everything come true in this trade. Now I'm waiting for the exit sign. And here's the exit sign, the higher low. Right there is your answer to when you want to get out of the trade. Now if you magnify this up, look what happened. See what I'm saying? So when you see that higher low, and you see that 9 start to cross down, you get plenty of chances to get out of this trade. You got one more chance, and there's your triple top. She failed. Then she kind of held support all the way down. So I see this every day. I see this trade every day on these highly momentum stocks. He's bullish on CFL in general, but how could we know for sure if this was an ABC pattern to the downside based on what you just said? Well, we never know, right? So we got to be in the now. You know, what company does this deal with? What does Cleveland Cliffs do? We've got to look at the yearly chart. Look at the daily. You see this right in here? You see what I'm talking about? You got to look at the bigger picture. In other words, looking at the bigger picture, you can see that we were in an upward trend in a channel. And every time we hit a resistance, it pulled back. Then it had a pivot point area. So just the way that I was showing on the sneaky snake. So, it's held trend for over what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's had nice 7 months. It's had a nice little run down here from the bottom. So it's built up support. It's not dipped down below that trend line. And that's what we would expect it to do again. So no lower. I mean, the perfect entry, I think, would be right down here, just like we had right here. Then you want to look at them candles. But that being in the now and what the company does and what the trend is, and then looking at a bigger picture of the chart instead of just looking at a small time frame. Instead of looking at a 20-day, instead of looking at a 30-day, look at the big picture. Even pull it up to a 3-year. Technical traders, we know that a 3-year support's way down here at like $12. I mean, that sucker could dive on down, but right now, look at the weekly. I mean, it's just beautiful. You got that pivot point. You can play within that pivot point. You can play outside of that pivot point. You can play off that support. So for a good year, 2 years, this has been a wonderful stock. So I think that kind of helps what you're asking. Be in the now and look at the trend and look at the bigger picture. So long-term charts will keep you in a trade, that's for sure. And when I first started trading and was introduced to Discord, I was introduced to a lot of other new traders, a lot of rookie traders, a lot of blind traders that were just starting out that knew they had a good opportunity in this new gig economy that we're developing. And the biggest, I think, some of the biggest lessons to be learned here is to have real big patience and to look at the bigger picture. Don't look in. This is me next year, I'm telling you. I'm not going to look at itty bitty anymore. I'm going to be generating some good money. When I first started, it was $50. I was happy with it. And then I got up to 100. And then I was happy for the longest period of time. I'm making 300 a day. And then I met, Miss Vegas. She kind of helped me think of a bigger picture. I always, instead of thinking of 50, why not think of 500? Why not think of 1,000 a day? Why not think of 1,500 a day? So, develop your bigger goals is what I'm trying to say. Look at the bigger picture of these charts, because I've changed many traders, the way they think and the way they look at a chart. And just look for that pivot point. Look at the big picture. Look for them patterns. If you're a fundamental trader, best for you. I'm not a fundamental trader. I'm a price action trader. And I trade on technicals because I've got stuck in, great earnings. Oh, it should fly. Then they tank. Then great earnings and it flies. And you'd think, oh, it should have tanked. Because it did last time. That's what I got screwed on AMD last earnings. I mean, that was a roller coaster ride for me mentally. Because I got in the trade last earnings and they were excellent. AMD, and I think that's next. Now, I'm going to show you a different way of using this watch list. We looked at the volume leaders. So now what we want to do is look at the percentage losers and see what pops up on the percentage losers on this list. The mostly in the red, percentage on the scan, and see if there's anything. So I like to run through here and see what kind of stocks that have been halfway popular, and this one likes to bounce off the 200. So that could be an opportunity for the sneaky snake. Last time we were down at the 200, we had a nice run. Last time we were down here at the 200, we had a nice run with a higher high. Now we're back down here at the 200, and we're going to have another turnaround next week. And that's GPRE. So I like to go to the percentage losers for that day. Snow. Snow had that great run. Many times where we could have took this trade off the 200 for the sneaky snake. Smack out, smack out, smack out. Now we're under that 200. Snow must have had earnings or something for it to fall back like this. If I'd, been a great opportunity to take this trade on Friday, right? I don't see anything in here that should have brought this stock down. Doomed. Snowflake stock doomed after a cross below support. See, don't listen to them crap. Don't listen to them idiots. Snow's train loader after Cleveland Research released a note to clients warning the company may be showing signs of slowed growth for the previous quarter, according to reports. Well, wait until he's an analyst. But it can bring a stock and give you plenty of opportunity, as you can see right here. So that would have been a nice little trade. Look, here's another one. What's going on with this, with MP. So I want to check out the news. AMAT's on here. Chewy's on here. Here's another setup. I'm very bullish on Chewy. Now we're in that same kind of trend. If you look at the yearly chart, we've been on an uphill trend on this stock. Now we pulled back to the bottom part of that support box. So you see what I'm saying? These patterns are very strong. I'd be setting me alert here off the 200 maybe and start to take this trade and move it back up. It's a pretty good sell-off. I love this. In fact, I already have. I've already said I don't need nothing in here, but I've set an alert. I'm going to raise it up a little bit because I don't want to miss this bounce off this 200. Just in case it bounces off the 200 on the daily. You see what side of the road I'm on? We've got an upward trend. It's been bullish most of the time above the pivot point, and every time it's sold off down here, it's bounced right back up to the resistance. So this is going to bounce off the 200 right here. Check it out. Ran all the way up. Bam. Good 2-week trade. I'm bullish on this stock. This thing's going to 100. Who doesn't love their pets? Maybe a few out there that, but COVID, it's made this stock run like a Dickens. So I found this on the red list, and I'm bullish on this stock because it's given me the setup that I need to take this trade off the 200. You see what I'm talking about? Now look at STEM. Yep. Snap, crackle, and pop. What do you got? What you got for me, man? So we're going to look to another Lyft. Lyft's took a heck of a beating because of COVID. So we're going to clear this out. We're pulling back here to a support level. You see what I'm saying? This could be an opportunity to maybe run this back up to the 200. That's Lyft. That's going to be a sneaky snake setup. So we're going to go to the daily 1 minute. Nice little pullback most of the day, and then she finally broke that 200. That's probably maybe when I would have took this trade because of the squeeze. But I don't know. It depends. It's all different when you're live. So that's another option of way to trade these. Now we're going to go ahead and go straight to the watch list. If I can find it here. So we're going to go straight to volume high, and BABA was on my list. We traded BABA on Friday. Traded BABA on Friday, and I got stuck in it, and it dipped on down, and I went ahead and bought more of it at the end of the day. That's not Baba. This is Baba. I got in this trade, and I thought I was getting in pretty good. This is on the 1 minute. It faked me out many a times, but there's many ways I should have looked at this trade instead of just getting gun-ho and wanting to get in it, because I got in it right about here, and then I end up costing averaging down and getting out of the trade, and then got back in it down here once it started breaking that 50, and then we kind of moved up after hours. Now Baba had a tremendous volume on this stock, and I've been putting it off because of the regulatory issues that are going on in China. And Friday was the day I wanted to get in the trade, because it just kept pulling back. I mean, it was just a nasty hollow candle that would never stop. Now there's a lot of negative sentiment on this stock right now and on China, and we're down. If you look at the 3-year chart on Baba, on the weekly, we're about down here to where the IPO price was, just at 130, and we were at 157. We pulled down here a few times before and bounced on up. So I don't know, I think I jumped in the trade on this big engulfing candle on the weekly. It seemed like every time we've had one, we've had a nice little bounce after it. So I'm expecting the same thing here. And I do want to bring this stock back up to right around the 160 area. If I can bust past 160, it's going to be a great trade. Exactly. That's what I'm thinking too. It was just exactly what Snap, Crackle, and Pop said in there. So I took the chance and swung this over the weekend. We're just going to have to see. It was a risky play, and I made it perfectly clear when I got in the trade. And it was not the easiest trade once you got in it to get out of it. I had enough time in there to cost average down and get out at a pretty decent loss. Not a decent loss, but a smaller loss. So I'm going to definitely have Baba on watch next week, because I think this is going to be a fun little sneaky snake trade. And that's when the 9, and we get all this action. We got the golden cross in to close. If we can stay above this 200, we're definitely going to start bouncing on up. And I'm definitely going to get out of the trade if we do have a spike, because you don't know what's going to happen with this, if they're going to bring it down to that 130 level, and that's going to be maybe the best place to get into the trade. So that's Baba. SPY was another good one. I mean, called SPY. I want you to check this. I charted this up and did a video on the SPY. We had that same kind of pattern. And when we had that sell-off, I mentioned this stock. I said it was a strong buy. And I put the video out the day before this candle came out. And we might watch it at the end of the show. But when we pulled back to that trend line, she went ahead and bounced up. Now she might hit this resistance. I think it's going to create a higher high. I think this dip, we talked about it every quarter or every month. She likes to pull back a little bit. This last run was a little overextended. And then we had the 3 black crows come in here, or we had them 2 basic red candles, and that was just a beautiful trade to take. But you see the trend. So here we are on the 1 hour. She pulled right back to that trend line. Pre-market. I mean, this was crying buy. So when you're in these things, I didn't put it up here. People don't know what to do when they're down here, right? Go to the bigger picture. Pull up that year's chart. See the trend. Unbelievable. I mean, this is a different trend. If you actually look at it, we got 2 different trends going on here. We got this one. Kind of stops right there. Then we got a smaller one that kind of goes right here. That's telling you that this is consolidating inside of this channel. keeping almost the same pivot point, but the higher lows and the lower highs. So we're getting ready to squeeze, and you don't know what's going to happen after this squeeze. You know, it could be a message that maybe we need to pull back here to 400. Now that will only happen if we have some bad, if we get a terror attack because of our open borders and the way we've done Afghanistan. You don't know what's going to happen. So that's the only deterrent that would crash this market for me right now. It wouldn't have to do anything but some kind of stupid thing like that. You know, 911's coming up, September, the anniversary, so you never know. But any kind of drop out of this box, I mean, it could cause some serious headaches. Maybe back to this support, or even this support, or definitely down here at the 200, which I can't see happening. I want to see it break that pivot point and run on up. It could give it a higher high. So we talked about NVIDIA, Apple. Here's another one that I was kind of mocked about last week because I wanted it to break out of the 50, the 150 resistance, and we did break that 150 last week. So we've been getting higher highs on this stock. I think we're going to keep playing in this side of this Darvas box for a while until we get another good inkling that this stock's going to run and break out, 155, 160, up to 175. To me, it's way undervalued, but it has a special sentiment with it that's kind of cult-like that says, no, it can't go any higher than what it already has. But we broke the 150 resistance, and that's what kind of gives me an idea that we're ready to do like what Microsoft did. So, and I'll come at Microsoft in a little bit. Now, this is on the watch list, right? Sometimes this watch list is real red. That's when you want to go up to them losers, because these are stocks that I trade over and over and over again. So we got AMC. She's kind of a difficult one to trade here lately. People get a little hyped on it when it starts to move up, but we are in a bearish trend, and we are finding some kind of support down here right around $30 to $31. So the higher lows are getting lower. This thing's getting ready to squeeze, and we might get a breakout above resistance level. I'm going to clean it up so we can see it a little bit better. But we have a low support right down here, just under 30 bucks. We kind of dropped below that gap. I don't like that much, and we couldn't break that gap resistance. And that's right in here. We just couldn't bust past this gap resistance. But we did stay in the gap support. We kind of dropped below it a little bit, but we're building that. So the low support on this thing is definitely going to be the 200 on the daily. That's going to be the strong buy, and your second strong buy is going to be right down here at 26.44. So if it doesn't hold this support at 29.42, we'll definitely drop down and try to build some kind of box. Now, to find a trend, the trend down, to be exact, you want to run it right there to about there and extend that out to the right. And that's going to be your lower support. And that bounces right off that 26.44 area. So let's keep it in there. If it does hit that lower support right around the $27 area, 27.26, I think you can take it back up and run it up to the 21 and maybe get some momentum, and maybe even get it past that 37.36 area. But that'll be a triple top break if that does happen. So set your alerts down here right around 27, 28 bucks, and see if you can't get in the trade on that level. AMD we talked about. Microsoft broke out of the channel last week. I've been talking about this ascending triangle for quite a while, and we did break out of it. So this thing's going higher. It has a lot of momentum on it. We're going to pull this up to the 20 days so we can get a better perspective on where we think this can go or where it can pull back. We have a low support right under 300 bucks. That's really got to hold. Your strong support is just going to be right under 300. This stock will do like the others have. We got a new Monday. It could either break out and finally find a resistance up here at 310 and do the same thing that AMD did, hit that 310 and then maybe pull back to about midpoint 305, somewhere in here, right around this 302 area, maybe between that and, wherever this resistance is, 304.31. So she's definitely a nice little breakout off the 200. I talked about this stock for a good 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I said we're ready. Once she breaks that 300, we're going to move on up. So there we are. We had our breakout. This stock's worth at least 325, 320, 350 in my opinion. Just on price action, not on anything else. I got Cisco here. Let's get BTBT. It's a Bitcoin play. I think we're going to probably reverse on it, but we need to break that resistance level of the 200 SMA on the 1 hour time frame. Cisco, what a trade, right? It's overextended. If it comes back and pulls back to this 5650, that'll be a strong buy to create a new channel. If she does decide to break out, we're going to pull up the 3-year, and we're at a 3-year top up here. So we got to break that 3-year double top. And we kind of did, went past it a little bit, 58. But let's see this thing pull back and try to find some kind of support. If she does decide to break out, have your marks on 60 on this trade. We're up here at a double top on a 3-year trend. COVID, got hit during COVID. Ran up, pulled right back again, and then it's been nothing but clear sailing since the chip shortage has come in, and she's been building up. So we got a double top break. I think it can pull back. If it does have a knife, let's see if this 56.51 holds. If not, we're going to pull back to this 55 level right here on the 9, on the weekly. Look at the weekly chart, how them candles are holding up on that 9. And I think if that does become a solid support, that'll be wonderful for this stock to create new highs. I'm definitely bullish on Cisco. This is undervalued. I think we can get this thing every bit to 60 to 70, maybe to $80 in a long time frame. But try to buy it at support and then see what happens from there. I like this stock. CLF, General Motors has taken an ass kicking last week. I don't know what's up with this company. I personally don't like it that much. I do own a Chevy now for the first time in my life, so I have to admit that. I think this will be a great sneaky snake trade. Once this starts to curl back up and run it back up to the 200 to find resistance. So keep a good eye on GM for next week for this curl up and see if we can't get her back to 52. Tesla, what a baby this was. Talked about it, the pullback on the news and everything. We're going to get back up here to, this is still, the news is still out there and they're going to still pop it up. They bashed this stock tremendously on Monday. CNBC wouldn't shut up about it. The next day had another reaction, and then, after it was all took in, Tesla, I'm bullish 100% on this company. If we tripled top bottom down here at 350, I'd be taking the trade. I just don't know what's going to happen with the media, how it's going to make this stock run. So let that news run off a little bit. This is a wonderful sneaky snake trade. I can't tell you how this has been a very successful company for me. I've been trading it for over 10 years, and every time I see the setup, I'm ready to take the trade. I've been long in this stock a few times and ran it up real nicely, long, and now I'm just rinse and repeating it. I don't have any long position. I got rid of it once we broke 720, and getting down here is 350 where I might want to load it up again. And I'm talking, when I talk big, I'm talking only 50 shares. So, but that's You know, just a good, great sneaky snake trade. If you can get in at the bottom and take them trades on this like this. And this is on the hour time frame. So plug is my worst nightmare. I don't know what happened to this trade. I was very bullish on it, and then all of a sudden it just took a nosedive. So I'm about ready to just say screw it with plug, but I know it's a good long-term investment. Now mRNA is another great trade we've been talking about. I'm going to clean this up. I've been playing the 400 and the 420 strike and the 350 put on this, and I had a 1, 2, 3 step trade on this and took it and sold it at step 3, and then she went ahead and had that killer day. This would have been a good $200,000 trade for me if I'd have held on to this. I mean, just that day alone, this stock just, I mean, it was, but I got out. I mean, I took this trade from 300, rolled it up, rinsed and repeated it, and then just kept it long for a long period. We're going to clear this chart up. And I did a video on this when we were right here at the high, and I called the perfect pullback to it, and I'll show you how I called that pullback. You pull up the yearly. Let me see here. Kind of hard to see on the 20-day. I got a 30-day in here somewhere. This was an ascending triangle right in here. So this was like and I've talked about that before on this chart. That old resistance becomes a new support. That old resistance becomes a new support. So you've got an ascending triangle right here. So that's like a 2-week ascending triangle. So when I did that video and we had that huge breakout, we got into irrational exuberance. And I said, watch this stock pull back to this ascending triangle. Bam, bam. I mean, this was a great trade. Took it, run it back up to the 200. Pulled back again, run it up to the 50. I only have one trend line on this stock, on this chart, to take this trade. One trend line. The put was a sneaky snake sell-off right here. The 9 crosses down the 21, crosses the 50, crosses the 200, smack, right to that support. Couldn't have been no better. Couldn't have been no easier to take this trade. And now we're creating a little Darvas box. To the side, you can see the resistance level. So I'm looking at the bigger picture, right? Well, there it is. There's the flag, the breakout, and then the resistance. What was an old resistance became an old resistance. Runs up to that 200, gives you a solid demeanor that this is solid misdemeanor. 407.36. So, you know, here's your channel play for as long as it wants to last. But we're getting lower highs. We'll probably come down here, squeeze again, and then have another breakout maybe, or she'll just give up and drop down to the pivot point on this chart right here. The next support level. Previous high comes a support. So there you are on mRNA. Keep that on watch. It's been a great trade. TSM also called it out. We pulled back to a solid support down here at 108. I think we can take some small reversals, but we got to let it play out, see if it wants to break this trend line. Look at the bigger picture. It doesn't take many lines to try to figure these out. There's your resistance line. So I don't become bullish on this stock until it breaks that resistance. Me, I'm a different kind of trader. I might jump in it, a little sooner if I see the breakout. But that 50 is a hard resistance, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with that trend line. I don't want to take that trade until it breaks that, then maybe run it on up to that 114, or maybe get down here at the triple bottom, take it from 107 and run it up to 109.95, 110. That's how I look at that trade. Nice daily support here at 108 TSM. Yep, that's what I'm thinking too, my friend. Have that triple bottom down here, get the curl up, break the 50, and then run it up here to the 114 area. Now there's a lot of, I had to boot a couple guys off StockTwit, or one guy. Well, it's up here at one. I'm calling this trade out last week, and I scalped it. Well, I hate guys like this. I was talking about if it was going to break out or if it was going to pull back. And it had to break a certain level, and it didn't break that certain level, and it pulled back. So this sucker's mouthing me because I'm calling the trade as I see it. I'm bullish on TSM, but I'm going to get it at the right price, right? Or I'm going to do what the chart tells me to do. If it's a rinse and repeat until it's a long position again. And I'm telling you right now, TSM is ready for a good breakout because we've had NVIDIA breakout, Cisco breakout, AMD breakout. They're all taking turns. They're being polite with each other. So when we get this down to a support level of 108, another chip maker, she's going back to 120. It's being in the now. Hood. Here's maybe another opportunity. It's finally come back to reality down here. So, no lower than 38.82 maybe to take this trade with one trend line. That's what I'm looking at. Somewhere right around there. If it pulls back to that level, or we get some kind of excitement, but the steam's run out on this trade. Or if I wanted to swing it, I would look at it like this. And trade it like this. This is a bull flag, believe it or not. This is a bull flag, but right now we're bearish as long as we're under the pivot point in this channel. So you look at the bigger picture, okay? I'm going to wait until it hits this 40 area, see if I can take it and break that pivot point. That's a $4 bounce. It don't look like, but I guarantee it, you look at the option, it might be a pretty good little payday. Then if we do start to run, break that 50 on that hour and take it up to the top of that trend line, there's a $7 trade. It won't take much. One day will get it back up there. One day will get it back up there. You see what I'm saying? I'm letting the trend tell me how to take the trade. And I'm using just 3 lines. Look at pins. Hey, John. John's a good old boy. I traded with him many a times. There's a couple more in here I want to look at. I want you to look at Dash. I got Snap on here. We're in the same kind of box. I'm going to look at pins. Let me write that down so I get it on here. I'll add it to the watch list. So we got Snap. Snap's been playing in this channel. Same kind of channel that went up, same kind of channel that went down. This is called Darvas box. So we've got to break resistance, 73.16, before it becomes bullish again. Or we jump in the trade down here at the bottom of that box at 70.52. We have to just kind of watch the trend on it. We got the sneaky snake working on this trade right now, where they cross. So this is turning out to be maybe a bullish trade all the way up to 74, and to break that resistance. But they did break the 9 and the 21, have bust past the 50 here, which is a bullish sign that this trade can go up. It's got to break 73.16, and then we're up to a higher level. Dash, and what was the other one? Dash I want to look at. Dash is a nice little drama queen trade. We are setting up. We did hit that triple bottom, and she bounced on up. So, I kind of have this to where I can barely read it, so I'm going to clear it out. We broke out of a trend right here, and we broke out of a trend right here. She ran up. There's your other trend. There's your other trend right here. So this is the one we're gonna. This was an oversold deal right here, off of earnings. And then the next day she bounced right back up. So this is a fun one to trade during volatility, and using the sneaky snake strategy. If you're able to get in this trade when that 9 is below the 21 and you have the crossover, when the 9's over the 21 you have the crossover, and the same thing happened here, and the same thing's happening here. So I think last week was just after earnings play, and she'll settle down, find some support down here right around the 178. $178.38 area, and you got a little resistance right up in here, 187.22, and then that third one up here. So anything down below it's going to be your strong buy zone, your consolidation zone, and your exit zone. Saying that this 173.79 is a strong buy. I'm going to create an alert, so when it beeps off, it says strong buy. I'm going to be jumping in this trade down here. I'm going to set another alert for the second support, and that's going to be right in here, a little bit above it. I want to be prepared. Then I'm going to look at one more thing on this watch list to show you how I look at my watch list. So I got a couple supports here just in case they do knife. This is a real strong buy at 178.88 or 174.43, and then take it to like 187. But definitely Dash is one to watch. There's a lot of fat cats in this trade. We got a bunch of others down here. We got Sava, Airbnb. I'm bullish on this one here. Very interesting chart if you look at it. The 1 year. I'm really liking this Darvas box. The next time it gets down here in the buy zone, I'm going to load it up and take it to right around 152. So that's 130 to 152, or maybe if she decides to hold this support here at the 141 level, I'll take it up to 152. But I'm really liking this setup a lot. We had the lower high and the bear flag. She knifed out. Triple bottom down here. The perfect setup for long-term swing. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even longer. This is way oversold. Let me tell you something about Airbnb. Why I'm very... Let me get a drink. I shouldn't have spit in the mic. I'll tell you why I'm very bullish on Airbnb right now. Quadruple earnings. Quad. That's 300% increase. Quad. You can't beat that. And here we are down at this lower part. These earnings were spectacular. only 11 cents in the hole now. They were 195. They were 11.24. I mean, quarter after quarter is so impressive with this company. And it's all got to do with people being locked up for a year and a half and the new gig economy. I'm putting a little bit of credit because of the new gig economy and a lot of drama that's gone on in the big cities, from riots to looting to crime to, why not take your job to the Caribbean with you? Why not take your job to Hawaii? And travel there and live there for 6 months while you're still working from home. Why not take it to Aruba for 3 months or Jamaica for 3 months? Anywhere that has a good internet service. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen here. So we're going to do pins. We added it to the watch list. At least I put it in here somewhere. There it is. Ooh, boy. Pins is another good one. Let me read here. John, you're a little bit on the fundamental side. How are the earnings? Just type in good or bad. Looked to me like they were good. They were up almost double on pins. We did have slack on the last quarter. It looks to me like, what's happening here? 728. Where's the earnings? I gotta look at the earnings here. Pins recorded earnings of 25% per share, beat the analyst consensus of about double, of a 92% increase. This is a 450% increase over losses, which is, I'm telling you, that alone is a catalyst to want to get in this trade. The company reported quarterly sales of $613 million, which beat the analyst of $561, so an extra $50 million, up 9%. So that's all good. The earnings were excellent. Let's get to the bigger chart here. Pull it up to the 3-year. This has had a wonderful run, 3 years. We got these 3 white soldiers right here that are the main catalysts of support right now. These 3 white soldiers. That first one was right here. We're going to draw a trend line across it. So the earnings were great. So we're going to put a trend line right in here, and then a low one right down here, which I don't think is going to mean much. This is on the weekly. So we're going to take it to the year now. We got a triple bottom. So you know what happens on the triple bottom, right? With good earnings, they've kind of took care of themselves. We got a triple bottom. So we do need to know that this support level here at 53 needs to hold. If not, we've got to just lower a little bit lower down here on the yearly for support right at $49. So the earnings were excellent. We got a triple bottom on good earnings. Why for this drop, I have no clue. I have no clue. No clue. That's a little bit too much of a drop. Unless they had some kind of news after. Let me see. I'm going to go back to the news here. Let's see what this guy says here. Trading lower despite lower better than expected earnings results. The company reported second monthly active user of 450, average revenue of 200, while that navigate through pandemic, Pinterest building a long-term transforming browse. There's nothing in here. Pinterest online product discovery platform ideas. Pinterest was trading recipe to cook and destination trusted. There's no reason for this stock to be for it to be dropping that I can see. Downgrade. Got it to neutral from overweight. Pinterest price start cut to 75. Because of their monthly users drop. Yeah. The company reported second monthly active users of 450 more million. $60.68. Okay, so I kind of get a feeling now. It's just priced in. I think this average is going to kind of create a Darvas box. We need to really hold this support level because of the gap at 52. If it does dip on down, 49 is going to be a stronger buy. But I think we should hold this and at least get it back up to 58. Find some resistance up in here. Right there at the 9 at 55.63. So if this looks like an inside candle here on a spinning top, I think we can get back up to the 9 and try to break that 55.63 resistance, and then the hard resistance up here no higher than $60. Take your profit. If that goes up to 60, that's it. If it goes down here to 53 and holds, we're still in the trade. Kind of seeing how I see it. If not, 49 is going to be your strong buy. Like that 49 area where that other gap is. So I think it's priced in. Everything's priced in now. 49 is going to be your lowest support. 53 to hold. 60 is your hard resistance. Long, you can do better. Yeah. COVID pressure will stop. We'll stop hearing about it pretty soon. I think we've had our scare like they did us before. So anybody else got a stock they want me to look at? PLTR. And there was another one someone else brought up. Bob has been good put, yep. STEM. So we'll look at PLTR. Now I did a video on PLTR. And this is I'm more bullish on it now than I've ever been. But we're getting ready to squeeze. And we got to look at this trend line here to be a solid support. And I've got, like I said, 23 right here. I like to see that hold because that used to be like an old resistance, which now becomes a solid support on the daily if you match it up with a 21 SMA. But for right now, we got to break a certain resistance level, and you've seen it on the chart, and that's going to be a long resistance of 27.40. The analysts got this going to 30. So, 30 is going to be a good price to maybe start scaling out and taking profit and start scalping it. I talked earlier about being biased in a stock. I was very biased with this one here for quite a while because of the CEO, but now they've had great earnings, better earnings than anticipated, which means I'm going to throw that off to the back burner and I'm going to trade it like I should. I think 23 is going to be your strong buy, the bottom of this trend line that you see on this here chart. That's going to hold, and then your resistance to break is going to be two of them. It's going to be this channel between 24.93 and 25.45, and a long triple top up here at 27.40. If it breaks the triple top, that's going to be real good to 30 to 31. If not, break that triple top, it'll pull back to the lower pivot point area of right around 24 and create a higher low. So what I'm saying is it'll create a new support, and we can build off that support, the 24 instead of the 23. Anything just a little under 23, load the boat, take it to 27, see if it does the triple top. You know, this should have done a little bit better. It really had the Colts going for it last week. They thought, a couple of weeks, they thought it was really going to break out. I kind of kept my cool and said it needs to break 27.40. That's a PLTR. STEM. STEM. So they got related offer and selling security holders up to, well, it seems like they got some insider security shares. STEM files prospectus related to offer sale by selling securities holders up to 4 million shares of common stock so they can get some money in their pocket. STEM second quarter sales beat 18 million. Still had a loss, so we don't want to forget about that. Pull up the 3-year. Look at the weekly chart. See a support level right here at 1983. Low support, no lower than 1763. If we get one more black crow in here, one more red day, get it in this little channel down here between 1780 and 1983, I think you could take the trade and run it back up to resistance here at 23.31. And maybe hit that 21 on the weekly, but better to hit that 26.30. So let's see if it closed below 20 bucks. That's where you want to take the trade. And I'm looking just at the weekly time frame, and that's all I need to look at. And I think that would be a strong buy, 1780, between 1780 and 1983, and then run it up here to 26.30. That's STEM. Yeah, it's going to have some risk. That's kind of the way I look at it, but I see a strong support there at that 1780 to 1983 area to hold. Give it some time for these earnings to kind of quiver off. On what? On pins? John? Yeah, I agree with you. I'll take that. I mean, you got the triple bottom right here, right? At 53.14. If it holds that candle, but I see what you're looking at the bottom of the day on that, on the weekly there. That's what you're looking at, right? Double bottom. And it also, if it breaks 54, you're off to the races. See the resistance? And you're set up. You got the 9 pushing up. You break 54, boing! Right to that 200 for sure. Okay, well, that's about it. Did anybody pick anything up from this watch list and how to play the sneaky snake? And remember them channels. Remember to play those channels, like the SPY. That was an easy call last week on that dip. I just looked at the bigger picture. Once I seen that dip, I just pulled up the bigger chart and I said, yeah. I said, yowza. I said, we're in a trend. We hit support, triple bottom. Definitely a good play. And I called this out, and the option stock ran up to like $120. The option did. I'm one of the good guys. I want to hear that. I am a good guy. So, I think I'm going to go ahead and cook me a little lunch and play with some more stocks. Make sure you subscribe and ring that bell and hit that like button. I got to get this up to 1,000 before I decide if I want to open another room or what I want to do. Kind of want to be a traveling trader next year. But don't forget, I'm starting the challenge this week. Once I get all that funds transformed into 1,000, I'll be doing that with the Sneaky Snake trades. Think quality. Yep. Think quality, measure twice, cut once. Don't let your brain rot and get complacent in a trade. Get stuck in the same. I can trade the same trade over and over again. Tesla's a great example. So keep that watch list. Keep it looking good, but don't get complacent. This is going to be me next year. And don't forget them chart patterns. Once you break a resistance, they can always become a support. Then you can create that new resistance, and then that will become support when you're stair stepping or even pulling back. You're welcome, Steve. John, it's good to see you again. Join us live on YouTube during the day. I've got the scanner running. I want to get to 1,000 members on this here YouTube so we can stream it live. Right now you got about a 4 to 7 to 10 second delay sometimes. And I think that's about it. You're welcome, Festus. Are you a gun shooter? I always liked Festus. I plan on traveling next year. I want to travel and get that thing started. I've been stuck behind this desk for 17 years every day. I need to get out and have a little bit better view. Take a couple laptops with me and COVID's kind of got me depressed. Quarantined. I'm the kind of guy that likes to play music, so I've got my mandolin out again and I'm cleaning it up, and my ukulele and my guitars, and I want to start playing some more music. I live in Missouri. I've lived in Hawaii. I've lived in Tennessee. I lived in Memphis. Lived in Oregon. And I think I'd never thought I'd be living in Hawaii at one time, but I did. It was like a fantasy come true. So I'm gonna spend a lot of my time in the sun. Missouri is not the best weather, as you all know. Tornadoes and ice storms, and I mean, it can get pretty nasty around here. It can get real hot and humid, or you can get. I'll show you a picture of one year that we had here, if I can find it. It's always when you want to find something, you can't find it. There it is. Ice. I mean, I'm sleeping in my house and I'm hearing these huge branches breaking. And when you're sleeping inside of a house and you hear these huge branches breaking, it's a terrifying sound. Oh yeah, you are getting hit with Hurricane Henry. We have tornadoes here, and they're just as bad or worse because they just drop out of the sky and you don't know they're happening, and bam. At least a hurricane, you have some kind of fair warning. So we're going to keep the watch list going next week. We're going to, if you find any good trades, come across YouTube and point them out to us. And I'll be starting my challenge, so it's going to be, I'm going to be very disciplined at first. I'm not going to be spouting off a lot of trades. I'll give you some ideas, but I'm going to be very disciplined until I get it built up again. Last one I brought to 32,000, and this is my 7th one, but I've got a strategy this time. Before it was just trading price action, but I want to take this strategy of the sneaky snake and see what I can do with it, because I'm very confident in this strategy right now, more confident than I've been in a lot of other. Then I can always rely on other things too, but it's always about trend, chart patterns, and the moving averages, and being in the now and keeping a good watch list. So I'm out of here. Thanks a lot. I appreciate everybody stopping in here and listening, and I'll be here. I might put out another video or two. Now I do have a couple out that are right now, and I might close with one of them. In fact, I kind of want to have you watch this SPY one that I did, and then I'll shut it off after that. But it kind of talks about looking for the right setup. I know it's in here. So we're going to go ahead and start this off, and well, hello retail traders. I want to bring you the SPY today and tell you how we kind of called it and what we're looking for. I'm live on YouTube, so please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell and get my future updates and notifications when I'm live or when I'm putting out a new video. But the SPY, we're ready for a pretty good pullback. I've been talking about it for about a week and said we're going to have a red week, and today is another reason why I think we're going to pull back more due to the Fed meetings and tapering, and they just have a huge disconnect between the private sector and Wall Street. So we called this out. We have two choices here. It's either going to bounce off this 50 SMA on the daily. It's going to bounce off that, or we're going to take it down here to the 20-day 1 hour. And we have this little Darvas box in here. We have a triple bottom support. So we were up here at the high today, right about the 200, and I started calling this thing out. I said we could have a double bottom on the top of that box. Re-meet yesterday's, and then the Fed came out and reaction was negative, and we're pulling back. So I think we're going to definitely pull back to a nice correction. That first support was up here at 440.94. The next one was at 438.90, and then that third one that needs to hold, and we might be able to scalp it back up to that 438 area, is at 436.89. Pretty solid about that. If we go past it, we are definitely going to see the 50 SMA. Now, if you pull up the yearly chart, we'll get back on here on the yearly. If that 50 SMA doesn't hold, you know, we could be in for a darker scenario. I am positive that we do need a good correction. I've been saying it for the last 2 weeks that we've been irrational exuberance, and you've seen it in the volatility of the stocks. So the sneaky snake has been a good trade to watch. You know, if you like the sneaky snake, this has been a great trade to get in on the dips in the morning. Been calling out every one of them. It's getting better and better day by day. Even got people coming more to the room and wanting to learn how to trade this strategy. It's a simple strategy, and it's one that you'd really like. So subscribe, ring that bell, and follow me live on YouTube until the first of the year. I've been doing weekly sessions for the last 2-3 months, and now we're just kind of putting it together, and we're watching this market in correction mode. So we have them different scenarios. We either have that 50 SMA, or we're going to stay in that channel and hold that support down here at 436.89. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing tomorrow. And if that doesn't hold, we'll just step ladder on down. 434. Let me get this price thing up here. 434.88. Then you got another one right down here, right around the 433.43. And then that strong buy definitely at 430.86. Somewhere in between this channel, we'll find another pivot point. But let's see if we can hold this 436.89 for now. If not, we're definitely going to hit that 50. That 50 is right here on the dot, and I'll give you a kind of close range price on that. It's going to be right here at 433.37. That was one of my trend lines that I mentioned at 433.43, so we're right on target. Let's see how we do. I wish you a lot of luck. Be patient, be more than cash. Now's not the time to be holding any swings. Let's wait for the trend. We'll play the sneaky snake on the SPY and get one heck of a reversal. Subscribe, ring that bell, and I'll see you tomorrow. There you go. She held that 200, and that was the winning trade. Once it hit that 200, bam. She took off and ran on up. So it was a pretty good one. Well, I wish everybody a great day, and we'll see you on Monday. Be sure to hit that notification button in case you see another video pop up. I also got a video on there too, so you might want to watch that one. Hit them like buttons and make comments under them. Thanks a lot, and I appreciate y'all showing up.